Okay, I'm trying to figure out what's going on with this fan. It is running, but it's got a problem. I put it on low. Sometimes it'll start up. Sometimes it won't start up. If I put it on oscillate, um, well, show you. Put it on oscillate and turn it on, and you see what I mean. It's very, very weak on low. Oh, see, and then it tries to stop, and it actually did stop. It's not drawing a lot of current on low. It's drawing 150 milliamps at 118 volts, well, actually 119 volts. Now, if I drop the voltage down to what it's rated for 110 to 120. So if we drop the voltage down to, let's say about 110. If I can get it there. Okay, 100, get it to 110. Okay, so we're about 110 volts. 111. It's drawing 130 milliamps. It's not turning. If I shut the oscillator off, you see it wants to turn, but it's not going to. And that's without the oiler in. If I put the oiler in there, that puts more pressure on the shaft, and you see what happens. It just stops. Now, it's not affecting the current when it stops. It's 130, probably about 135 milliamps, somewhere around there. It's not really affecting the current. So it's not a problem with, electrically, it's not a problem. Well, it's hard for me to explain what I'm trying to say. The coil is functioning, the stator is functioning at the correct current, roughly. The armature coil is functioning at a good current. I mean, they're not high current, so there's no dead short or anything like that. But some of the turns could be shorted. There's also appears to be a bend in the armature. I think this fan might have fell over at some point, and the cage was smashed a little, and I repaired the cage. It had been repaired before. So I'm wondering if the armature got slightly bent, but that shouldn't make that much difference. Okay, I got it on low. If you listen when it hits my finger here. Can you hear that? If I back my hand away, hear how it's like one blade's hitting more than the other? Yeah, it'll be more obvious on a higher speed. It's hard to get my finger in the right place, so just give me a second. Hear how it's intermittent? And it should sound like that. Each blade should be hitting my finger. And if you look at the center, you see that wobble? Now there's a piece of paper on there from where we were painting, but there, you can see the whole outer circle is wobbling. That really shouldn't make that much difference, but then again, this motor has brushes, and if the brushes are not making good contact all of the time, and there should be, the caps are all the way on, the springs are all the way in. If I go to high, again we're at 110 volts, it's drawing 170 milliamps, okay? It's 112 volts. The voltage creeped up a little bit. Bring it down a little bit. Okay, so we're on 110 volts, and it's drawing 170 milliamps, which is what it's supposed to draw, obviously, because even at 120 volts, it draws 170 milliamps on high. That's high. That's not a lot, but it is a small fan, not a lot of air movement. I mean, if I put it on oscillate, see, just that little bit of drag on the fan, you see how it slows the motor way down. I tried loosening and tightening various lugs on the motor. Right now I got them all the screws off, which is the least amount of pressure on the motor. But I tried tightening them at different positions to make sure that it wasn't rubbing on the stator. And you can hear it's not rubbing. The only thing you can hear is the is the armature turning along the brushes, and you're hearing it a lot more than I am, because in the camera the air makes more noise. Now it's well greased and it is oiled, so it's nothing like that. It's not running hot. It has a mild electrical smell, but that's again normal when you got brushes. You got brushes, they're gonna give you that electrical smell because they're rubbing on the armature. I did tried cleaning the contacts on the armature a little. It's running better than it was when I first got it running, but it's not right. It doesn't have any strength. I shouldn't be able to just do that. And you see how slow it is getting started? It's like it has to work up the speed. And that's on high. If I put it on off, I scraped the blade there. I got a bad spot on it. I got to touch up the paint. You see, now it's on, and it's not turning. And it's only drawing 120 milliamps. So normally on a fan, if it was binding and not turning, it would draw a lot more current than it's supposed to draw. It's not drawing excess current, which means that electrically, what it has to work with, it's using efficiently. If I go to the power factor, here, it's 11.6 watts, which is correct, and you see 11.8 watts, 12 watts. Climbing a little, okay, then it drops back down, and the power rating is, the volt amps is 116, the power factor is 0.73. Now that's a little high, so there is some inductance there, and it could be, I got this big old transformer, it could be that, I doubt it though. I'm going to go ahead and plug it right into mains. I don't like doing that until I'm happy with it, but in this case, I'm going to do that. Bear with me a second. Okay, now I'm plugged directly into mains. If we go to low, no, see, it has nothing to do with it. It's not my transformer. It's not my current limiting system. I don't want to leave it plugged in mains until I'm happy with it running here. So we'll plug it back in there where I can monitor it, the current and the voltage and the power dissipation. See, it turned and stopped. Now, why did it do that? Well, it's on oscillate. Shut the oscillator off. Look, that's with the oscillator off. And why it's doing that, I don't know. It's not affecting the current. 140 milliamps. And I didn't touch it. It just started. Now that's on the slowest speed of the speed coil. I don't think the speed coil has anything to do with this, because even on high, it doesn't have the power it should have. And even when I had it wired directly in, I tried to, I adjusted the speed coil. I put a good amount of time in trying to optimize the connections inside, and they're all fine. That's not the problem. I went directly to the head, and still same situation. There's, like I said, there's no short in the wires, obviously, or it would get hot and it would draw a whole lot of current, and my current limiting bulb up there would come on. It don't even come on, which I got it shut off now and don't even need it. You know, it's pretty much like running in mains. The speeds are working. I mean, that's low, and once it gets up to speed, it is low. It's not as good as I would like, and you see how it keeps slowing down. See that? I think the motor's just really tired. If I go to medium, it does a little bit better on medium as far as getting up to speed. And with today's mains, it should be better than it originally was, not worse than it originally was, because our mains voltages are higher than they were when this fan was made. But see, even on medium, you can see it's like slowing down and speeding up, and there's nothing binding. It's just the magnetic field is fluctuating, and it's going in the right direction, and then it's like it's out of phase or something. And if I go to high, that's high. It gets up to speed on high because the fluctuation is so little. It's intermittent, and it's very small. Very small of a difference in phase shift. And so when I touch the blades, it's got some power. But still, when I stop it, look how long it takes to get back up to speed. It shouldn't do that. It should speed up really fast, and it should have a whole lot more power. By the time I put the grill on, put the oiler in, which puts a little bit of pressure on the armature while it's oiling the armature, and put it in oscillate, this thing don't want to run at all. It is oscillate. And again, it's not the oscillator, because I can do the same thing just with it not oscillating, just touching the blade. It still has that. It's like it doesn't have enough power. It's using the power that it has, but it's not enough power. And I don't know why. I don't know if some of the turns of the coil in there are shorted together. It's not a short as in, going to drive the power up, but it could be a short, and basically, instead of having, say, 12,000 turns of wire in the coil, maybe 50 of them are shorted across, and you got 11,500 turns, something like that. It's like it just doesn't have enough coil to make enough magnetic field to kick this thing into overdrive, to give it the force, the power it needs. And it is a very small fan, and it's a very old fan, and that adds to it. So I just don't know what to do. I'm going to take the armature out again and see if I can find something, anything that might be causing it some pressure, but I don't think so. Because when I shut it off and take it out of oscillate, the only resistance I'm feeling is the brushes. I mean, I'm barely touching it. Yeah, it should spin. If this was a brushless fan and I did that, it would spin about 4 or 5 times around. But with brushes rubbing on the armature, you're not going to get that. But then again, I've had brushless fans that didn't turn any better than this, and they had all kinds of power. So it's not rubbing nowhere. It's not rubbing on the stator. That's why tightening the bolts in different arrangements, some tighter, some looser, and that's what you usually do to try to get the armature perfectly balanced and centered. It makes no difference on this because it is balanced and centered. I noticed one of the springs looks like a spring from a ballpoint pen, and I'm wondering if maybe that spring is putting too much pressure on the armature. It don't feel like there's a lot of pressure on the armature, but that could be. Anyway, I apologize for this taking so long, but it isn't going to do you any good if it ain't running right. So I'm trying hard to get this thing to run. I also have to still order the cap for this. I got some touch-up paint. Anytime you assemble a fan, you're going to, scrape things. And of course, this one I've had to loosen and unloosen. And so when you do that, you get spots you got to touch up, which is understandable. But I'm not worried about that. I'm more concerned with why it's not having the power. I don't have the nameplate back on yet. I got to put that back on. But everything else is in there, and the cord's on. Nice cord on it. Anyway, that's where I'm at. So I just wanted to upload this video so that the owner could see it. And if anyone watching has any ideas, you could leave a comment. I'd appreciate it, and we'll go from there. You see, it does turn. It does turn freely. See that? It's doing fine. It's just not got the power. It just doesn't have the power that a motor of this size should have. There's low. I'm going to try taking the cap off where the pen spring is and try to release some of the pressure on the brush and see if that makes a difference. Okay, I think that's the problem. Push on this is the one that's got like a pen spring. Ooh, a little bit of a shock there. Strange. Shouldn't be feeling too much of that, but I am a little bit. Okay, that one's in. Now this one is a much less pressure. See how soft that is? All right, hold on. Okay, you can see the copper here, the contacts, and try to get a little bit closer, but you can see the discoloration on it. That's after I cleaned it some. I'm going to clean them a little bit more. And I sprayed the coil itself and got some of the dirt out of there. But you see, even that was, not a lot of dirt came out of it. It's pretty clean. I was kind of amazed that it was that clean. There is some grooves on the side of this. And you see all these grooves in here? Let me shine the light on that. See all those grooves in the iron core here? Some of that is just the plate. Some of those grooves, though, are from where at some point it was rubbing bad against the side of the stator housing. You see there's some wear in there, but it's not bad. It shouldn't be an issue per se. It's just, it is what it is. It's got age. So I'm going to go ahead and clean this real lightly. I'm going to put some deoxant on it and try to deoxidize some of that and get some of that out of there so that the brushes make better contact. And I might turn the brushes around and run it a little bit and then turn them back. And that way it'll clean up the brushes as well. The brushes are fine. They're long enough. In fact, they're so long that just the spring pressure is causing a problem on them. And while I got this out, I can show you where I got there's the wire with the shrink wrap on them. So the head wire is really secure, and I put a wire tie in there to keep it secure and out of the way and not able to move, so it won't work itself loose or anything like that over time. It should be great. So let me go ahead and clean this and see what we can get here. All right, I got a lot of the, let me see if I move my light over here. As you can see, I got a lot of the oxidation off, so it's a lot cleaner. Actually looks really well, better than the camera. The camera makes so much glare you can't see it, but it's very clean. You can see it there maybe. Looks like the part where the brushes don't even hit. The brushes only hit on this back half here from that line over. They don't hit here. This is original, so you can see there is a little bit of wear, but that don't matter. That's fine, and they're clean. It's clean now, so the brushes should make very good contact. But that's, again, I don't think that was so much the problem as those springs were way too tight pushing on that armature. And I didn't feel it turning the blade, but apparently it was there. And I'm going to go ahead and take that off and clean it a little better and grease it up. Okay, so that's where I'm at. Excuse me. Okay, I found two issues. One, you can see I got it spinning a whole lot better. It just needed me to take it out, clean the contacts, and put it back in. Now, of course, one of the caps is out, so there's less pressure on the armature on that side, which is the spring that's like a pen, from a pen. And this one has got the original spring in it. So, if I put it on low now, it starts right up. And it'll try to stop if I don't hold that spring in a little. But it's way too long. You can see I got to cut some of it off, and it might work fine. That's low, and it's drawing less current, which is amazing. So it's doing a lot better. It's actually throwing air. You can hear it. I go to medium. It's doing better. Still takes a little time to get up to speed, but that's okay. It gets there. That's what matters. And it's not intermittent. You can hear the air. And a medium is drawing 140 milliamps. I put it on high. There you go. Now we have a fan motor. And it's drawing 160 milliamps. So it's actually drawing 10 milliamps, roughly 10 milliamps less, and putting out a lot more air, spinning a lot better. That was the problem, that spring. And that wasn't the only problem. One of the brushes has a wire. The brushes are in the back, and they have wires that come to the front. One connects to the coil on this side. The other brush comes in the front, connects to the coil on that side. This one was, well, they had these like hard material, I don't even know what it was. I hate to say plastic, because they didn't have plastic back then, but it was very hard. And I had to peel it off with an X-Acto knife, but apparently only one or two strands was connected and the other strands were broken free. And that's where it was losing a lot of power. So between losing a lot of power there and this spring being way too long, I mean, right there, if I hold it right there, if you can see that, let me see if I can get a light closer there. If I hold it right there, it runs fine. If I push it all the way in, it puts pressure on it, and on low, it won't want to run as good. But it's still running a whole lot better than it was at the beginning of this video. So, and I know the oscillator will do better too, but I don't want to mess with that right yet. If I don't know what this rubber band will do. Hey, that might actually put enough pressure to hold it there. If I can get it to stay on there. Yeah, that's about right there. That might be a little bit much. But see, even now it's still turning better. but that's too much pressure. If I release the pressure, this thing will spin even better yet. But see, low, comes right up to speed. And you can hear the brushes rubbing, but that's okay. The brushes, they're going to make a little bit of noise. And now that it's turning faster, it's obviously going to make a little more noise than it was earlier. They weren't making no noise before because they were wedged against the motor. I don't know, I'm surprised it even ran with that spring that was in there. I don't know, but you see the difference, that's high. So just that rubber band is putting more pressure than we need. We just need enough to hold it in place. Unfortunately, what's going to happen is as the brush wears down, the spring will get loose, and because that's not the right spring, it's not the right kind of spring, it needs to be a very soft spring. So when you replace the brushes, you know, you might have to redo the spring. There's nothing I can do about that because you can't find these springs. If we can find them, I'll order them, but I don't think I can find them anywhere. I haven't found this motor except a couple on eBay that are listed, one for parts and one it says working, but who knows. And they wanted $115 for it, unrestored. So, I mean, you know, getting the springs is kind of hard. But a pen spring will work. You just have to cut it to the right length, you know. It's too much tension. Oops, that felt nice. So, anyway, I'm making good progress. Again on low, starting right up. So we had two issues. It still takes a little time to get to speed. I'm going to rewire this the correct way, the way it should have been. Apparently it was rewired at some point, because it shouldn't be low, then medium, and then high. It should be high, like that, because that brings it up to speed faster, and that's where it has the most power, then medium. If you wanted to drop it down, once you turn it from off, I'm going to stop it. Once you turn it from off to on, if the first speed is high, then watch what happens right away. See now, you see what I mean? It kicks the motor and gets it going. But going to low first, that's a lot of draw on the motor because you don't have as much voltage. So I'm going to rewire it back the way it's supposed to be, high, medium, low. That's the way all fans are wired in this era. So I'll fix that. But the other thing is I got to cut the spring, and then I got to touch up the paint and find a cap. And I think I found a cap that will work. I'm going to pull my caliper out, get some measurements off this and make absolutely sure, but I think I got one that'll work. So not in-house, I have to order it, but that's where we're at. And by the time it comes in, I'll have it all assembled and the paint touched up, and I'll just matter of screwing in the cap. So thanks for watching the video. If you found it informative, please consider giving me a thumbs up, and have a good day. Still has a little trouble with oscillating. Even I cut the spring and it's working a lot better, but oscillating, not so much. And on low, it hardly moves. It just stops. Medium, it'll run. So I have to play with it some more, but I'll fine tune it. Anyway, I'll upload this video. Thanks for watching.